All right. Hi, everybody. This is Molly, and today we're going to talk about 15.5 as it relates to our department for 211. You should have already viewed the first introductory video that is in Degreed, so this is just some additional information for you. Okay, so what is 15.5? It's real-time feedback loop between you and your supervisor. And it's called 15.5 because it should take you less than 15 minutes to fill it out and about 5 minutes for your manager to review it. 15.5 is going to be replacing your annual review. And it gives you and your supervisor a platform to have an ongoing discussion on what's going well, where you need some help, and career goals that you have. 15.5 allows you and your supervisor to communicate topics that you would like to discuss during your one-on-ones. Okay, we're all going to have objectives based on what your position is in the department. So first I have here for the 211 Community Resource Navigators, we're going to be reporting 2 objectives for each of your 15.5s. And this is something that your manager is going to input into 15.5 and you'll just be viewing it. So the first metric that we're looking at is quality. And what we're shooting for is 92% quality referrals for our clients. Now you might want to know, well, what does that mean? This is taken from our QA guide, and just the one specific metric provided key resources to client and offered options when available. So we're looking at the number of times that you've done that in your QA'd calls for that month. And then the other thing that we're going to be looking at is productivity. We want you to have at minimum an 85% adherence to your schedule over the course of the month. Okay. For the community content specialists, we're just reporting on one objective for right now, and that is 90% productivity based on percentage of caseload. And just to kind of side note on that, that number may be tweaked when caseloads are redistributed, but you would be updated as to what the expectation would be at that time. And then for our AHC, Community Resource Navigation Specialist, you're going to have 2 objectives that will be reported on for each 15.5. The first one is that you're expected to have your action plan box checked for 100% of all patients in navigation in CMS. And we want for your CMS notes to match what's in refer at minimum 80% of the time. Okay, so we are starting to roll out right now. So that's the week of September 23rd, 2019. Training is going to be happening in waves. Each week, 1/4 of you will view the training in Degreed until everyone's finished. And once you view the training, that's when you're going to fill out your first 15.5. You're going to fill out a 15.5 once every 4 weeks, and you will be able to receive a reminder email when it's time to fill out your 15.5. There are some settings in 15.5 so you can customize how frequently that you get those reminders. So we'll take a look at that. 15.5 is meant to supplement your one-on-one meetings with your managers and not replace them. All right, so next I want to show you a couple different ways that you can access your 15.5s. So the first way is from SharePoint. Okay, and what you would do is go to My Resources and then to Performance Management. So that's My Resources, Performance Management. And then in here, there's a little bit of additional information about 15.5 that if you'd like to get a little bit more details about it, you will find that here. And then there's a link to the 15.5 website over here. This 15.5 basic training, this is what I've placed into Degreed that you should have watched prior to watching this video. Okay, so also you can get to 15.5 from the 211 staff page. That's 211oh.org/staff. Matt Finley has just recently updated this, so thank you, Matt Finley, for doing that. And you'll see 15.5 is now in the web links for staff section. So I'm going to go ahead and click on there. And I'm going to sign in. And then I've created this little dummy account. Here's Mr. Training Sample. I can look over here at my account. It gives you the option to add a avatar if you would like, or you could just leave it alone and it'll be your initials. And then this just has your basic information about you in there. Part of the 211 Mr. Training Samples, part of the 211 Navigator group. The reviewer is whoever your immediate supervisor is. So for Mr. Training Sample, that's me. I'm the reviewer. And then this will tell you how often that you are to do your 15.5. And again, for our department, it's once a month. Some of the other departments are going to be doing these more frequently, but because of the nature of what we do, we as a management team decided that once a month seemed appropriate for our needs. I mentioned earlier email notifications. So that's here in the notification setting, and then you can customize this to get email alerts for any of these options here. Okay. So I'm going to go over to 15.5s here, and Mr. Training Sample is going to fill out his 15.5 for this period. I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And so you'll get a taste of what yours will be like. All right. So you'll see over here who is the reviewer. So that's Molly Black is the reviewer for Mr. Training Sample. And then over here it says who else can view my 15.5, and you'll see that Helen and Frank are also able to see that because of course Frank being my supervisor and then Helen being his supervisor. So essentially everyone on up the food chain will be able to view yours. So like, for example, for the content specialist, Mike will be able to view yours. Matt Finley will also be able to view it. Frank and Helen. So that is how that will work. Every time you log into 15.5, we're going to answer a question. How did you feel at work this week? But really for us, since we're not doing this weekly, we're doing this monthly. How did you feel at work for this month? And then you would just select. We'll say that Mr. Training Sample feels at about a 4. Okay, and then down here are those objectives that that I showed you in the PowerPoint. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to open up one of them as an example. So this one is the accountable health community one. So let me go ahead and open this up. And as I do that, I will see my 2 key results that we spoke about earlier. Action plan box being checked for what percentage of patients in the CMS database. Well, you can see here Mr. Training Sample was at a 90%. It also shows in there the target. We want to be at 100%. Mr. Training Sample was only at 90%. All right, and then the other metric that we're looking at is CMS notes, matching and refer. And in here, the target is 80%, but Mr. Training Sample was at 90%. So he's doing a little bit better over there. All right. I'm going to move back here. All right, so so then these are some priorities that I entered in earlier as I was creating this 15.5 account. And for Mr. Training Sample, he wants to review his utility training and then improve his adherence. This actually, I meant to put this in the 211 Navigator, not the AHC Navigator, so this doesn't really make sense here. But these are priorities. You're able to add those in there, as well as your manager can put in priorities as well. Okay. Then we move down to the question section, and one question that we have to answer each time that we fill out our 15.5s is, what went well this week? All right, and this is the only required question that you need to answer. So you can add some text in there. If you want to be cute, you can put a little emoji in there. So let's see this happy guy. You can upload an attachment in there as well, if you'd like. And then also this little guy over here, this locks this question so that only your immediate supervisor can see it. So this way, if I were to click here, then only, whoops, I didn't want to upload anything. Only Molly Black would be able to see that, not Frank and not Helen. These next questions are optional, so feel free to fill them in when you want, but they are not required. And then another cool thing that you can do in here is give somebody a high five. And a high five is a way to acknowledge either publicly or privately that someone is doing a great job. So I'm going to put one in here for Molly Black. Say, you are the best manager in the world. All right, and then I can make that, I can make it private, so I'm not showing the whole rest of the world that, and you can You can either make it private or keep it public. All right. So that's basically it as far as what you're required to fill out each week. So I'm going to go ahead and, or each month, excuse me. All right. Since we just talked about high fives, I can go over here in the high five section, and I can see any publicly posted high fives. So you can see Mr. Training Sample here congratulated Michelle on completing chemo, so we're really happy about that. So, and you can see everyone else is in here. Also, these high fives are viewable on, whoops. I don't know if it wants to open up now, but they're also viewable on SharePoint on that main home page. Hopefully this loads up, but it's if it decides to give me a problem, it's going to be on the lower right-hand side of the screen. And for whatever reason, it's not wanting to listen to me right now. So we'll just not worry about that for the time being. And then the one other thing that is going to be useful for you is, oh, and here we go. Now SharePoint is going to decide to open up. So we'll just sit here patiently and wait. Okay, so right here in the, I don't know what's going on with this, but anyway, hopefully you saw that for a second there. It's on the lower right-hand side of your screen when you log into SharePoint, and let's see. All right, here we go. Our latest high fives. All right. So the one other thing that I wanted to highlight for all of you today is the one-on-ones. If this lets me close this. All right, and that's over here. And this allows you to just, for both you and your manager, to kind of make some notes so that you're organized when you have your one-on-ones, so that you don't forget about something. You know, since it is, you know, we do have a bit of time between each of our one-on-ones, you might have something that, you know, you think about in the middle of the month and you don't want to forget it before your next 15-5, so you can add that in here. And you can see here's Mr. Training Sample does his one-on-ones with Molly Black. And we have a draft going here because Training Sample has put some things in there. I've put some things in there. We haven't actually completed our one-on-one yet, but this is kind of all of our notes combined on what we want to talk about during our 15-5. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And so a couple things. Mr. Training Sample is wondering, are Winter Reconnection and Winter Crisis the same thing? And then also, Mr. Training Sample says, I would like to start doing community outreach events. So these are things that that we'll be able to discuss during our one-on-ones. And again, you can lock this so that it is only visible to you there. Okay. So then next, we have some action items in here that can be entered either by you or by your manager. And you'll see in here that I don't have a nice avatar for me. It's just my initials, which is the default. And it's reminding me, send training sample, the outreach document, and answer any questions about it. And then I've added a action item for Mr. Training Sample needs to review the utility training in Degreed. Okay. There's a section down here for shared notes between you and your manager. Either one of you can add that in there. And then also a section for you to put your own private notes in there. So just it's kind of an extra space to organize your thoughts. All right, if you have any further questions about this, just feel free to go ahead and reach out to me. Also, feel free to check SharePoint for the frequently asked questions section. And everybody have a great rest of your day. Thank you.